Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Faire Life with Andrew McKee. It's Monday again, and great to see all of you joining me again for another week of let's talk about some stuff that interests us if we're interested in Faire. And oh, hey, I see some people already commenting. Hey, great to see you, Jan and Kurt and Janine and Harvey and hey, Drew. Yeah, I haven't seen you in a while. Great to see you. You made it. Very good, very good. I'm glad you could join. Yeah. Wow. This, I almost didn't know what to do tonight because it was so smooth. For the last, it's been a struggle for the last several weeks trying to deal with some technical issues and trying to get everything set up here. And yeah, everything has gone really smooth. And yes, let's go ahead and knock on some wood there because yes, everything just ready ahead of time, no stress, no worries. I love it when that happens. Facebook seemed all right and YouTube seemed all right. I know. But I always had a weird view of luck, I should say. Jan, it's my view of luck, I guess maybe partly colored because I am Irish, at least of Irish descent, is that if I can think of it, it's probably not going to happen. Yeah, the only bad luck stuff that seems to happen to me are the things I don't conceive of. So yeah, it's very rare that something I thought could happen actually happens. Really odd, but that's the way it goes. So I always try to think about every possibility if I can, and it works out. And Janine, yeah, you have been home for a week because you just got in last week, as I recall, what you said. So yeah, I know. Sometimes when you travel for a while, and I know most of you know this, but the more you travel, the more true it is that you almost need a break, a little vacation when you get home just to recover. You need a recover time. It's crazy how that works out. You'd think automatically you could just relax when you got home, but no, there's a lot of transition and stress involved and unpacking and getting back into the old habits that you had. It's a process, and emotionally, mentally, physically, sometimes you have to adjust, and that adjustment takes time. So always true, Lisa. And Sri, hey, thanks for joining. Yeah, it is just something I've noticed, but don't worry, Janine. Just take your time, and you'll get there. A week is about right, though, in my experience. Normally, it takes about a week to kind of at least feel like you're home. That's how I would put it. Yeah, just to feel that way. Sometimes it takes a couple of weeks, though, before I kind of feel like I'm back 100%, but I'm totally okay. It can take a while. Yeah. Right. You never get a break. And that's the tough part. Now, that is one thing Europeans do so much better than we do, and that's culturally not just accept, but enforce taking long breaks regularly. Getting that seasonal vacation that lasts a good week or more. I think that's so smart. And I wish we did it here. I really do. I really wish we did, but alas, no. And hey, Kathy, thanks for joining in. But yeah, never boring. Well, let's go ahead and there's so many news items I thought about bringing up and everything, especially over the last several weeks that I haven't had shows didn't happen for one reason or another. So I've kind of got a long list, but I want to share a few. There was, let's see if I can jump over here. There we go. I totally agree with you, Lisa. That's right. sometimes normal is a bad word. Certainly professionally, a lot of us certainly believe that. And Jan, that's certainly another way to go. Y'all seem to just say, instead of finding any sense of normalcy, we're just going to travel so much that we never have a chance to to have to relax. You just kind of keep going and keep going and keep riding that wave. That is a way to go. And not as many people do that, but those that do seem to enjoy it a lot. Anyway, this, some of you, I'm sure you probably have no idea what this is, but this is a metal cylinder that was bought at a flea market in Hertfordshire, England, not that long ago, for less than $25. And the guy who bought it, it was just one of those, this would look great in my my rockery. What is a rockery? Let's start with that. A garden rockery is, well, let's see. A little, put a picture there. Here. There we go. There we go. A garden rockery. Now, it's pretty much just like a rock garden, except usually it has plants that are, well, they're called alpine plants normally. They are used to growing on rocks. And rock gardens, garden rockeries, they're really just a way to make a boring flat area look interesting, or to cover up an uneven area where you get a little bump in that flat terrain, and instead of trying to even it out, you just throw some rocks over it and turn it into something pretty. And that's essentially what a rockery is. It's just a way to add a different elevation that still looks nice and like it was intentional. Sometimes they put little ponds or waterfalls in there. Sometimes it's just rocks with lovely plants. But yeah, that is what a rockery is, in case you're curious. Now, the idea was he bought this at the flea market for the purpose of adding it to the rockery, just to add this interesting item on there and to kind of give it a bit of an industrial kind of look with the rocks, kind of like a cannon coming out. And that was the idea. He was a little more right than you would think, because after he put it up, some people happened to walk by and see it and go, oh my God, is that what I think it is? And identified it as an extremely rare medieval hand cannon. Yeah. That's always good to have some options on that. There's no one way to do a rockery. Also true. You've got to keep those the Fae happy. That's one thing I've always learned at Faire. But yeah, they identified it as a very rare medieval hand cannon. And what's a hand cannon? It's the precursor to the musket. It's essentially, before they had flintlocks or wheel locks or any of those, they had, let's get a picture up of that. Here we go. Here's one where you can see it's essentially that metal cylinder I just showed you with a wooden rod behind it to hold on to. And then just like a cannon, you put a wick in there, light it, and after you've loaded it, and it shoots out. And it was a popular item in the 13 and 1400s in Europe, and it just predated the musket. And that's it was used in battles. There aren't many of them, so finding this was a bit of a good find, and they turned around and sold it at auction for about $2,500. So you never know what you're going to find at flea markets. Just throwing that out. But yes. Wow, getting a Star Trek reference in there. Yes. With the lizard creature, the Gorn, wasn't it? Am I right there, Jeremy? The Gorn? I think that was it. Yes. The original series episode Arena, where he had to make one of those out of some bamboo and making his own gunpowder. Very interesting. So yeah. Okay, good, good. I was right. Um, oh yeah, well, um, yeah, Alan Hutton. I mean, I at this point I just assume Hutton has every single weapon ever made. You know, if it involved some sort of explosive device, he probably has a version of it. So, but yeah, cool that he has a functional reproduction. That just doesn't surprise me. He is. You'll see Alan Hutton out at the Texas Renaissance Festival and at Sherwood. He does both fairs and is a huge part of both. Has been for a long time. So always good. Right, right. That is true. Ah, okay. No, no worries, April. Just glad to have you here with us. But no, I mean it is interesting. So that is a hand cannon, and yeah, and let's go back to the picture from before. You can see what it looks like, and you can see where the wick went in and lit. But yeah, that is from the early 1400s. Is what they uh, from studying it, and kind of cool, right? Nice to have your own little hand cannon. But don't worry, it's sold, and I'm sure is in a museum now, so that is a good thing. Also, okay, I'm going to ask all of you a question. How many of you have, I mean, seen those articles about Roman concrete? Because it's like every couple of years, I keep seeing another article, another school or magazine or whatever does something about the wonders of Roman concrete. That's not to say it's not amazing and interesting, and it certainly deserves study, but it just keeps cropping up. The last one I saw, once again, because I've seen articles like this before, talked about how resilient it was to seawater, and how because of some of the components and substances they put in there, when it would fracture and crack, the seawater would merge with it and fill in the cracks automatically, and that's why Roman concrete that was in the oceans are still around to this day. Kind of wild. Oh, right. You're not wrong, Kurt, that it would properly, it should be called a fuse. I was just trying to use terminology that everybody would understand. But yeah, totally, you're right. Right? Oh, yeah. That is another good point. Going to a flea market with somebody who does Ren fairs is an experience. I mean, especially if you go with vendors or merchants or artisans, people who make things at fair. It is a different experience. I will say that, because it's almost like going to a museum and going through and having long discussions about the history of things. Sometimes, if you like having a guided tour, believe me, it is nice. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. Right, right. Oh well, I mean, you can't say the Romans didn't build it right. That is very, very true. But I'm just amused that every once in a while I'll just keep getting those same articles that just keep cropping up, and that's kind of the point about the Roman concrete. They just, I don't know. Sometimes it seems like, well, okay, they discovered something new, but sometimes it just seems like they're rehashing the same articles again and again and again just for content. And originally online you would see that kind of thing from third-party sites that just don't. They're just looking for content to have content. I mean, they're not really trying to give you news or information. But I've started to see it more with some of the mainstream sites, and that's worrisome. I'm starting to see the downward trend of the internet, I guess is what I'm saying. It's a little worrisome because just throwing up the same articles again and again and again, kind of the same way that old tabloid newspapers did back in the 80s and 90s, like the National Enquirer and all that would just rehash the same fictitious stories regularly just to get attention. And I'm starting to see that with news and the history section, and that's worrisome, I should say. Hmm. Yeah, it can get old. yeah, sometimes general knowledge is fun. But you don't want to like spend an afternoon on a Saturday go shopping and getting a PhD at the same time. I mean, I totally understand. It can be too much. It's important to be able to sum up. Yeah, well, I'm not going to get into the how real that is because wow, that's just going to get ridiculous pretty quick, I think. Anyway, so another story that kind of caught my eye that I found really interesting was the University of Cambridge. They put together, let's get over here and jump that here. Here we go. This is a London medieval murder map. And what it is each pen represents the approximate location of one of 142 homicide cases in late medieval London. Pretty cool, right? I mean, it's just, you can click on the pen and it'll tell you about the murder, what happened, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's a weird sort of history whodunit. I mean, it's taking cold case files a little to the extreme, but it's very fascinating. Very fascinating. I'm going to throw in the link here because I think I can get away with doing that in the chat. There we go. And yeah, let's do that in YouTube as well. If I can. Let's see. Here we go. Right. Boom. Okay. So you can click on it later and check it out. But it is a, yeah, it's something kind of cool to just look, I mean, just to look at, just for a curiosity, just to kind of see what kind of murders and why were going on in medieval London. I mean, I can imagine a lot of it, I think it just satisfies curiosity, but there are uses. I mean, if you're doing like a gaming campaign for Dungeons and Dragons or something and you need something for a city, this is not bad for inspiration. Or if you're just trying to understand what it was like and how times have or have not changed too much, it is fascinating. It is interesting. And, oh, well, Jack the Ripper was not medieval. That was later London. So yeah, that's not this is like medieval times, 1400s type of London. So not quite like that. So just so you know. Yeah. Yeah, right. Anyway, I just thought it was fascinating and I wanted you to have a chance to check it out because, well, why not? And totally, yeah, medieval mysteries. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it is kind of like I said, a bit of an obsession with cold case files to the extreme, but yeah, I don't know. I just it's interesting enough just to at least click on a few pins just to see, and I find that interesting, very much so. Oh, okay, we're almost getting to 7:20 now, so I'm gonna try to keep to a schedule. I know it's something new I'm trying. We'll see how it goes. And let's just go ahead and do the Faire map real quick this for this weekend. You can see that now some of the well, not the southern, but middle of the U.S. fairs have stopped now. And we're going to the extreme north fairs for the most part, and Colorado, which, because of its elevation, kind of qualifies as extreme north in its own way. So, well, sure. That makes sense, Janine. Definitely population density and number of murder cases. But yeah, so a few fairs went away, and I think, one got added. So we're kind of in that lull period when you get into late July and early August. But that's going to start to change. In August, we'll add some new fairs coming in and into September. So yeah, it's gonna pop soon. But this still not bad. it is interesting how many fairs there are, because I remember 20 years ago where there weren't this many in the summer, but still, it is fascinating. So let's jump in. Here we go. And yeah, woohoo! Back to everyone's favorite animal toy, the laser pointer. Yay! Woohoo! Cool. Always fun. Always fun. Okay, well, let's jump into starting off with the main Renaissance Fair in Acton, Maine. And it is weekend 2 out of 2. So this is going to be their last weekend over there. Jumping over to New York, we have the Sterling Renaissance Festival in Sterling, New York. This is weekend 5 out of 7, and the theme is Highland Fling. So then jumping down to Ohio, we have the Great Lakes Medieval Fair and Marketplace. This is in Rock Creek, Ohio, and this is their 4th weekend out of 6, so still a couple more weekends left. And the theme is The Pirates Are Invading. So I'm just going to go out on a limb and assume that this is Pirate Weekend. Then, let's see, jumping up to Michigan, we have the Mid-Michigan Enchanted Forest Fair. This is in Vassar, Michigan, and this is the 3rd weekend out of 3, so this will be their last weekend, and the theme is High Seas Hijinks. So again, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that's sailors and pirates. Then, jumping over to Wisconsin, we have the Bristol Renaissance Fair in Kenosha, Wisconsin. This is their 4th weekend out of 9, so there's still some more weekends left there. And this is their Cottagecore weekend, which is a theme concentrating on the artisans at Fair. Then going over to the other side of Wisconsin, we have the Wren in the Glen in Glenwood City, Wisconsin. There's just 1 weekend there. Jumping down to Colorado, we have the Colorado Renaissance Festival in Larkspur, Colorado. And this is the 7th out of 8 weekends, so just a couple more weekends left there. And the theme is Renaissance, Romance, and Masquerade. And so, yeah, that's a pleasant Renaissance theme right there. Romance and masks, okay. Then jumping over to Silverton, Oregon, we have the Canterbury Renaissance Fair, and this will be the 2nd and last weekend there. So that's all we have. 8 fairs and something to enjoy. Not too bad. Yeah. Wow. Not too bad at all. So yeah, okay. Wow, 7:24. Okay, timing. I'm actually doing okay with going on schedule for once. This is crazy, crazy, crazy. So okay, I wanted to go ahead and do a 7 reasons because I haven't done one in I don't know how many weeks. I mean, it's been over a month since I've done a 7 reasons. I don't even know the last time off the top of my head. It's been a while. So let's do 7 reasons why history buffs are fascinated with murder. Ooh. Yeah, I know. Thought we'd get all Agatha Christie this week and jump on to, let's do 7 reasons. Here we go. Yay. Okay. So for the 7th reason why history buffs are fascinated with murder, I'm going to go with the obvious for number 7. Okay. This is just going to be the obvious one that everybody knows because murder is fascinating. I mean, okay, follow this logic here. This is assuming that you don't want to be a murderer. Just, reaching, I know, but assuming you don't want to be a murderer, this is something different. This is something that you don't quite understand, can't quite relate to. This is something that's a little different. So that's fascinating. Things that aren't intuitive automatically generally are fascinating. I think it's just because of the differences. Yeah, that kind of helps. Number 6. Okay. In stories, the murder is usually the best part. I mean, when you think about a story or a book or a movie or anything like that, I mean, you have kind of the 2 climaxes in there. You have the actual murder that happens, and then you have the reveal at the end. That's the reveal of who done it. The figuring it out, or if sometimes they get away with it, and how they got away with it. So that whole it's the murder that is the core main interesting bit in the book or movie. So yeah, I think that kind of would work. Why, thanks, Harvey. I appreciate that. Oh yeah. Okay. Do we need to do book lists? Okay. Let's put a pin in that and think about that for the future. I think doing some book lists might be fun. Okay. Number 5. Okay. We want to know how to get away with it. Now, mostly as an intellectual exercise, certainly. But, people are competitive. They like to know how to win. They like to find cheat codes for their games, or, shortcuts when they're driving from point A to point B. They like to optimize, to excel, to do better than others. And I think that knowing how to get away with it falls into that. I think that's kind of why. I'm getting to that, Janine. I am. Don't worry. But you're totally right. Number 4. Because we are a culture obsessed with horror. Let's just look at a lot of the movies that come out now. Books as well. There's some dark, sick stuff going on screen. And it's designed to make you feel uncomfortable, to make you feel icky, to make you hide your eyes or scream loudly when you see it, or to not sleep that night after you've read it. That's why, that's their approach when they're putting all that together. So, and the reason why, because it works. People are embraced with that. That's part of our culture now, or good or bad. So number 3, the number 3 reason why history buffs are fascinated with murder. Number 3, we want to believe we have evolved. We when you think about murders from before, where it's medieval murders or that past things, we want to believe that we are an evolved species. We're different than the animal. We can think for ourselves and control our urges and do all of that. And that's how we're the dominant species on the planet. That's the mentality we want to believe, that we are better than people were 100 years ago, better than people were 1,000 years ago, better than people were 5,000 years ago. That better in many respects, but one of them being we're not as evil, we're not as malicious, we're not as murderous, and so the history wants to what? Well, sure. There is that, but I'm just saying society in general, that people want to believe that people generally want to believe they're better than other people and other animals and other creatures. And it's that level of comfort that they try. Is it right? Well, that's a different 7 reasons list. Let's put it that way. And a long discussion. Number two, and this is what Janine was mentioning earlier. People have a fear of being murdered. Not everyone, but a surprising number of people have at least a small level of anxiety about being murdered themselves, whether it's because of an experience they went through, or just something they heard about, or just a natural fear that just stems from whatever. Being able to talk about it, to see elements of it, can ease your anxiety and make it easier to deal with. And people will embrace that a lot more than you realize. Kind of interesting. And the number one reason why history buffs are fascinated with murder, empathy and understanding. I know. Don't look at me too suspiciously, Lisa. For what it's worth, I researched these answers. Okay, this are not all from my head, but people have a tendency to think, could I do that? Could I commit murder? how would I do it? How would I get away with it? So for some people, they're worried they could commit murder. For some people, they want to ensure that they couldn't. But in order to do that, they have to think about it. So there's this level of what would I do? And, that's true with most stories, most movies, books, that kind of thing. You tend to empathize with the main character, put yourself in their shoes. What would you do if you were in that situation? If in the movie, The Time Machine, what 3 books would you take to save the future? I mean, you put yourself in that and think about it. So yeah, I mean, you have that empathy and desire to understand. Thanks, Lisa. I appreciate that. For what it's worth, I researched a bunch of psychology papers to get some of this. So don't feel too weird. But yeah. And you're right, Janine, that there is a major difference. But I'm not saying it's accurate or rational. I'm just saying people want to believe certain things just to ease their own conscience or mind. It's kind of how it is. Yep. There you go. Anyway, there we go. 7 reasons why history buffs are fascinated with murder. And excellent. Okay. Well, there you go. So maybe this was a bad trigger list for some people. Apologize if it was. I just was based on the whole University of Cambridge medieval murder thing. So I thought, okay, people are fascinated with the history of murder. Why? So I just did as much research as I could and tried to come up with a list that made sense. Right, Janine. So for some people, it's a fun, twisted exercise, I suppose, of, I hate this person. How would I kill them if I did it? And in thinking about it, then you relieve that impulse and you don't. It's a way to blow off steam, I guess, without breaking the law. So yeah, I mean that is. We're pretty much talking about so many different Twilight Zone and Outer Limits episodes of should people be blamed for their thoughts, and are they guilty of horrible acts just by thinking about it? And that's that's of course the big ethical question. Oh, I get it. Alicia's not here to tonight to make fun of me and and do that. So you're filling the gap, Lisa. I appreciate that. Always appreciate it. Well, I guess that's about it. It's a little 7:34 now here in Austin, so not too bad. I feel like I got through everything and trying to follow a schedule a little better if I can. And I got to 7 reasons, so not too stressful. But excellent. Well, thanks for joining again. I hope you had a little fun and it wasn't too creepy, because, murder can be pretty creepy. Now, for what it's worth, I can't stand horror. That's my least favorite genre. I avoid it like the plague. Murder mysteries, yes, if it's from the perspective of the person solving the crime, like an Agatha Christie or a Conan Doyle kind of a Sherlock Holmes thing. Okay, that works, but from the point of view of the murderer, not a fan. I don't really want to get into that icky place, and it's just always been unsettling for me. So never liked it. I first discovered that when I read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It was so dark and twisted and about the dark side of human nature. I mean, at a very base level, of course, but still, I was young, so it made an impression, and that turned me against horror back then. So yeah, it's like my least, it's like the only genre that I avoid, to be honest. But yeah. Well, no worries, my pleasure. Take care, and have a good evening and a good week. definitely enjoy this time because, well, you never know what's going to happen in the future. So take care, try to stay cool, and remember, fairs are always around, so it's always easy to have a fair life.